Hey again, it's another time for an episode of Math with Mullins. Today we're going to be talking about lesson 1.6, describing pairs of angles. Our main objective today is to understand the differences between complementary and supplementary angles, and we're also going to be talking about what is a linear pair and how do those make vertical angles. Let's get started with a few common vocabulary terms. And the first vocabulary term we're going to talk about is a complementary set of angles. These are two positive angles whose measures have a sum of 90 degrees. Supplementary angles are two positive angles that have 180 degrees. One way I like to remember complementary, anytime you get a compliment, that is you doing something right, and right makes a right angle, 90 degrees. Supplementary also means straight angle, so straight angles are always equal to 180. We also talk about adjacent angles here, and this one you might want to write down in your notes, but these are two angles that share a common vertex and side. Okay, that's really all you need to know about adjacent angles, so just make sure you pause the video now and you have those first three things written down: complementary, supplementary, and adjacent. One other thing we want to make sure of is when we start to name some of these with the adjacent angles, they have this common side. It's almost like sharing a fence with your neighbor or sharing a wall with a sibling. Okay, 7 and 8 are not adjacent because they're not sharing a side. They're drawn separately. So in this next part, it says name a pair of complementary, a pair of supplementary, and then a pair of adjacent angles. The first thing we want to make sure of is complementary are equal to 90 degrees. So what two angles equal 90 degrees? Well, if we look at angle BAC is 37 and RST is 53, those add up to 90 degrees. Supplementary angles, remember, has to be 180 degrees. So to get that, we would need to have CAD 127 and angle RST. Both of those add up to be 180 degrees. Lastly, the pair of adjacent angles have to be right next to one another, and that is going to be angle BAC and angle CAD. Okay? Next up, as we're describing what does it mean to be a complement, what does it mean to be a supplement? The first one, it says angle 1. So again, complement just means it has to be equal to 90 degrees. So if we already have 62, we would just subtract to find the additional piece of that. 90 minus 62 is going to give us 28 degrees. Supplement has to be 180. So we would take that 180, then subtract our 47. We would get 133. Okay. Name a pair of complementary angles and number 1, a pair of supplementary and adjacent. And then, are these all adjacent angles? And explain. This would be a great time to pause the video, try these on your own. Make sure you can identify each one, and then click play when you are ready to check. So we'll start with complementary. Complementary angles have to be equal to 90 degrees. So what I'm seeing here is angle FGK and angle GKL. Okay, kind of looks like a zigzag. For supplementary, I'm seeing I probably should use HGK 131 and that GKL. Adjacent has to be right next to one another. They have to share a same wall. So I would probably say FGK and angle HGK are both adjacent angles. Are KGH and LGK adjacent angles? And then our FGK and FGH adjacent angles. Explain. So if we look at let's start with KGH. Here's KGH. And here is LKG. These are not. No. Because they're not sharing the same wall. Or they don't even share this. They actually don't even share the same vertex. So need same vertex. Okay. The next one is FGK. So here's FGK and FGH. Okay. These would also be considered no because they have common interior points. They're not separated by that wall. So no, because common interior points. Okay, again, adjacent would have to be like boom, 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 boom. Well, a little bit better than that. This is the common wall that they share. Okay. Continuing on is angle 1 is a complement of angle 2. Find the measurement of angle 1. And then number 4, 3 is a supplement of 4. Find the measurement of 4. Let's go ahead and take time now to pause, try the video on your own, and when you're done, click play. So if the measure of angle 1 is determined by a complement, we would just take 90 and subtract measure of angle 2. 90 minus 5 is 85 degrees. For a supplement, we would taking that 180 and subtracting the one angle we have already. So 180 minus 148 is 32 degrees. Okay. Last little bit. We've got a few different things to talk about here. Let's go ahead and start here. When viewed from the side, the frame of a ball return net forms a pair of supplementary angles with the ground. Find the measure of BCE and ECD. So this is actually referring back to lesson 1.5, where we're going to add our like terms, set it equal to 180, and solve for x. That way we can plug the x back in to figure out each individual angle. I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms together. So I see 5x plus 10 equals 180. Subtract 10 from both sides. So I get 5x is equal to 170. Now the name of the game is taking that 170 and dividing by 5, so x is equal to 34. Now I'm ready to plug that in. Well, what's 4 times 34 plus 8? 34 times 4 gives me 136, plus 8 is 144, so this one is 144 degrees, and then 34 plus 2 is 36 degrees. Okay? Here is where you can try it. These are both complementary angles. That means 90 degrees. Let's take time now to pause the video, set your equation up, solve for x, plug x back in, and determine what each angle is worth. So combining like terms, I'm going to do that first. I have a 4x and a 9x. That'll be 13x. A negative 2 and a positive 1, that's negative 1, equals complement 90 degrees. We're going to add 1 to both sides. So that gives me 13x equals 91. Then I'm just dividing 13 by 91 and I get 7. So since x is equal to 7, let's go plug it back in to these equations up here, or these expressions. 4x, that's 4 times 7 minus 2. 28 minus 2 is 26 degrees. And then 9 times 7 is 63, plus 1 is 64. Both of these adding up to be equal to 90 degrees. The final thing and the final piece we're going to talk about are linear pairs, okay? Linear pairs are two adjacent angles, so that's where we want to fill in our blank, and they make a linear pair when their non-common sides are opposite rays. So these are making a line. These are technically considered adjacent angles, but they're also considered linear because they're making a line. If you look over here, we're going to talk about vertical angles. Vertical angles are when their sides form two pairs of opposite rays. So we have 3 and 6 vertical angles. We have 4 and 5 vertical angles. So two angles when their sides form two pairs of opposite rays. So what we're going to do first together is identify all linear and all vertical pairs. So we're going to start with linear. Okay. For linear, angle 1 and angle 4, because they're in a straight line. Angle 4 and angle 5 are also a pair of linear. Now we need to find vertical. There's only one pair of vertical here, and I'm going to tell you why. The only pair of vertical angles are angle 1 and angle 5 because they are also looking like they're equivalent. Okay, I cannot use 2 and 4 because 2 is a lot smaller than 4. Same thing with 3. 1 and 5 are my only vertical pairs. This one we're going to try to maybe sketch something and then determine. It says two angles form a linear pair. Okay, cool. So let's draw a straight line and go off to the side maybe here. The measure of one angle is 5 times the measure of the other angle. So 5 times would mean like 5 mystery number times x, where the other one is just x. Find the measure of each angle. Notice how these are both equal to 180 because it's a straight line. So that means my equation can be 6x equals 180. And then we would divide both sides by 6, we get 30. So x is equal to 30. That means this one is equal to 30, and this one is equal to 150 degrees. Okay? Number 6, 7, and 8 6 and 7 are dealing with this image, and then 8 will be done on its own. Why don't you take time now to pause the video, try 6, 7, and 8, and when you're done, click play to check your work. 6, do any of the numbered angles in the figure form a linear pair? A linear pair can only be 2 angles, so this one should be no. It takes only 3. Whoops, sorry. Sorry, only 2 for linears. Okay. We do have a lot of vertical pairs. So for vertical, we have 1 and 4. Angle 1, angle 4. Angle 2 and angle 5. Angle 3 and angle 6. Almost like if you slice pizza, it's the pizza that's right across from it. Number 7, the measure of an angle is twice the measure of its complement. So again, this goes back to twice the measure would be 2 times x plus another angle, just a singular x, is equal to a complementary angle, which is 90 degrees. That means this is 3x is equal to 90, so x is equal to 30. One of the measure of the angles would be 30 degrees, and the other would be 60 degrees. The last one in number 8 says 2 angles form a linear pair. So again, we can maybe draw a picture. The measure of one angle is 1.5 times the amount of the other angle. So I have 1.5x and then just x. Find the measure of each angle. This is equal to 2.5x, which is equal to 180. So we divided 180 by 2.5, and we get x is 72. So this measure is 72 degrees. And this one, if we just take 72 and times it by 1.5, we get 108 degrees. Okay, that is going to conclude our notes on lesson 1.